And I'm going to be twiddling with my computer here while I get started. And but I want to just get a chance to talk about a project that we've been working on here at Cal Poly for we started the overall project, which we introduced yesterday, the Student Data Center. And we started that about 3 years ago. It has grown slowly, and but has come up with a handful of really great outcomes. And so, I need to find my file here. But as part of that project, we've had an opportunity to look toward automation. And I think I'm tragically unable to search on my computer and talk at the same time. I think I'm not multitasking talented. Okay, here we go. So I want to bring up basically just a poster that we're working with, and when I did this before, it showed up a little bit better. I think I had like a 4K projector or something, so I'm afraid this is not going to be as readable as what I've done before, but this is maybe a little bit better. And but what I wanted to do is get a chance to present this, and really two things. One is present the topic and what is going on with the topic, but also really just to encourage all of you that really pursue the ideas that you have. One of the challenges that I have working with students is that they have great ideas, but they don't really feel that, I don't know if they either don't think the ideas are that good, or they feel they can't move those ideas forward, or they feel that the project is too big for them, and that it would be a struggle to try to make that, to complete a large project. And I wanted to address several different elements about that. So first I'll talk about the project itself, what it's about, what it's doing and whatnot. But then I want to talk about really just, for me, encouraging you to take on whatever projects that you think might be interesting. So this SDC stands for Student Data Center. And this is a project that was started by a gentleman, Juan Ortega, who's our lead author on this project. And he now has since graduated, and he's a security engineer at Warner Brothers, and now working with HBO because they're part of the same parent company, and they have their own little security issues. So he's already knee-deep in the fun of cybersecurity. And but he brought up an idea about a year ago, saying that it's just too difficult in the data center to keep standing up all these systems. We support a lot of middle school and high schools that want to run cybersecurity games and whatnot, CTFs, but it's getting to where he was running back and forth to the campus, and lots of attention, lots of time on task. And could this be automated? Could we automate the whole process? And thought that was a great idea. And so I said, great, pursue it. And at first he said, well, no, somebody else needs to go do that, and then I'll use it. And I said, well, if you're the one who understands what needs to be done, maybe you're the person who ought to, try to make it happen. And he started, and he said, at first he thought that was a good idea. By the next day he came and said, I take it all back what I said yesterday. This is not a good idea. I can't do this. And he started, because he said, I spent last night and I looked at all these issues that have to be solved and all these things that need to be done. And it's just way too big. And I told him I totally agree. But I said, first of all, you're not starting from ground zero. If you recognize this problem, lots of other people recognize the problem too. And you're also you won't start from ground zero, and you won't do it by yourself. Because there's a large community of people that want to solve similar kinds of problems. So even if nobody else yet understands the problem, all you need to do is put the problem out in front of them. If it's a worthwhile problem or project, people are going to jump on board. To the extent that you enable that, and to the extent that you make it possible for them to do that. And so this project is something that we worked on in the fall. I should say I use the word we very liberally. I did just about nothing. Students did all the work, but I loved to claim credit along with them. And different students came on and off the project as students would graduate and whatnot. Things would shift out. By this last spring, we had a special topics course based around this. And so a group of 6 students worked on the core and really developing and finishing the core of this to make it functional. And in the process, we've taken this to 3 different research conferences. Each time we've gotten a lot of good feedback and incorporated that feedback into what's being done, and we keep picking up more and more partners in this as we go along, more and more individuals and groups who are helping out with this. And so essentially what this does is it takes an entire environment that a set of users might need, and it will stand it up in a data center. So this might be, in fact, a lot of these competitions will be somewhere in the range of 600 to 800 virtual machines, a lot of network infrastructure between those virtual machines, applications being loaded, databases, data put into the databases, many, many steps and whatnot to make competition work. That part all was up and running by last spring. What they've been working on now is APIs to external data, so that if you want to run a competition but you don't want to use the same data you used last time, how can we have some data archives and easily change out that data within the system? And so that has been moving forward, and has been some success has been had with that. The project itself is going to yet another research presentation. We're going to be at the WITS conference in Seoul, South Korea here in December, and the students will present it again. And again, this is now, by time we present in December, a couple of the original students that worked on it are going to travel, but they're no longer students here. They're now off with companies, and the entire student team working on this has completely changed out. So none of the original students that worked on this project are still with it, and yet it's evolving and continuing to grow and build. And so when you go through, basically the purpose of this is really twofold. One is increasing the efficiency and productivity of the data center, being able to offer services 24 hours a day, all the time. If there's adequate compute capacity or resources, memory, compute, disk, etc., then a game can be run. So, and we also are offering this now worldwide. We never intended that. We hadn't imagined it from the beginning, but we now have teams from a number of countries that are part of this, either Cyber Patriot or down in the UK, it's Cyber Centurion. They're a little sensitive about that Patriot word, so they renamed their game. And it's several different iterations of that game now have come about. And so we've had students that we found just by watching IP addresses. We've seen students from Australia, students from UK. Actually, Saudi Arabia is one of the most newest ones, which I didn't even realize they had been doing that in Saudi Arabia, but it turns out they are. So it's been some really great outcomes from that standpoint, but also from our standpoint here at Cal Poly, it's really the hands-on experience that we care about. As much as we love to see kids playing cyber games in Canada or Saudi Arabia or wherever, what we like is that our students are having to build systems and run them and maintain them. And so the data center has really a dual purpose around that, where a lot of our students are often the users, the consumers of the services, but our students are also the builders and designers of that infrastructure. So it's a kind of a cyber infrastructure ecosystem that is really benefiting everybody, the creators, the builders, as well as the consumers and users. And so some of the things that that decisions that the students have made, and by the way, this is one of the greatest things in the world about this data center. It causes students to have to make decisions, to find a way forward, to look at options, alternatives, and make choices between them. And so if you have not been thrown into that situation, I really encourage you to reach out. As we build this data center, we're finding out other resources at other universities and other places. Even some of them are run by companies where they're wanting to get to know students. And I'd be happy to share information about kind of this ecosystem we're starting to plug into and become aware of as this project goes forward. But within our data center, we've selected Chef as our automation platform. And I would like to say that's just because we concluded Chef was the very best. We did conclude Chef was a really good choice, but Chef happens to have come from Ops Code, and the founding CEO of Ops Code was a Cal Poly alum. So that also played into that decision. So I guess full honesty here, it wasn't necessarily a completely unbiased decision to go with Chef as our automation platform. Within our networking, another really exciting project, running software-defined networking. And I say that very liberally, and I bite my tongue when I say it, because to really fully utilize the features of SDN, there's a lot that can be done. And we're doing a little bit of it, just enough to say that we're doing software-defined networking and learning in the process. But we have a long way to go, long way to grow with that. And then it's all of the other things to make a website, or to make a data center work. So things like web development. Is web development part of running a data center? Well, yeah, it is. If you want to give people vision into your what you're running, you have to give them a portal somehow to do that. And so that's one of the greatest things that students are learning, is how you put all these pieces together, because you might just want to be a Linux admin, or you might just want to be a database person, but you end up realizing nothing works until you get everything up and running. And there's a lot more there than you might have imagined. But the understanding of information systems becomes far greater when you get to take all these siloed topics, the programming, the database, the networking, and whatnot, these things that often show up in separate courses, and you're forced to put them all together and make them all work together. So this is basically a little bit about the data center, about some of the activities. In fact, some of these you might even want to use this data center for. This data center is used quite a bit to support training. You see the picture down at the bottom is a workshop that's running. We now have workshops that are running at, I think, 6 different colleges and universities. Certainly looking to grow that. And but what we ask is for, if you're going to teach materials and use the data center to do that, we ask you to share those materials in an archive, so that we can build this kind of collection of different topics that we have shared learning materials on. So that's something we'd invite you all to be part of. Competition teams, the photo on the left is one of our competition teams. We have numerous competition teams now that use this data center. And we just turned the corner of adding our second team. We're just supporting our own competition teams, cyber competition teams here on campus. We added a second school just in the last month, and now schools probably 3, 4, 5, all the way through 10 are going to add in the next 2 months, because the concept is really kind of caught on. And students are realizing that playing a cyber game is a tough thing to do. I mean, oftentimes you're trying to break into something and destroy it. Well, if it's like almost anything else. Breaking something is pretty easy. Spend a lot of time with pottery, making a really nice pot that's very, very beautiful, and drop it and it'll break. Breaking it is fast and easy. Building it is hard. And so if you want to build meaningful, worthwhile platforms that you're then going to try to break into and break, you find that you spend almost all your time building the thing that you'll then break in 2 minutes. And you'll find breaking it is way too easy, because if you built it, breaking is not very hard. You know where the weaknesses are. And so this is an opportunity where schools really should share resources. As we all build these nice systems to break into, we can share them, because first of all, we then share that workload of developing these materials. But also, we don't have insight into them already, so we truly have to treat those systems like an outsider would, that we don't understand the intricacies of it. So I would encourage you that if you have, if you are into cyber competitions, if you are into cyber research, consider how maybe this data center might be something that you could utilize and take advantage of, but also just this larger ecosystem of resources and whatnot that are geared toward that end. And a lot of those resources are in private companies, so it's a great way to start a relationship with a company, is to start using their resources to do some research or do some competition training, because you get to know the folks on the inside of that company that way. And then finally, if you want to contribute to something like this, if you want to take on a project and stand up and build something, some of the products that we've been looking at here today, Splunk is going to start in January. So we got Kay showed us a little bit about Splunk, and so we've already stood up QRadar, but we're to stand up many more of those services. And those are primarily being done by people here on campus, but we know that we can take on far bigger, better projects if we collaborate beyond our campus walls. And so, if you're interested in that, please let us know. We certainly invite that. But also then, I just want to encourage all of you, if you have ideas and think you see something that ought to be done, please don't sit back and wait for somebody to do it. Because you might be old and gray before somebody does that. And maybe the world needs you to be the one to step up and make that happen. And you never have to do it alone, because there's lots of people who are looking for someone else to do something where they can jump in on a project. But it takes someone to take a deep breath and plunge in and plant a flag in the ground and then invite people to come participate. So we're doing that here, but we really encourage you to do that as well wherever you see that the need arises. So that's all I've got. So questions if anybody has them. Yeah.
You mentioned that this data center is used for trainings. Are these live trainings, or you mentioned they were archived data? So were they live or non-live trainings?
It's generally live systems. So what we try to do is put the training materials in, make the training materials available. So usually, groups are downloading the training materials, reading through it, and then those training materials might call for you to install a CentOS Linux box and lock down a bunch of features on it. And so then you would spin up VMs as part of that lab. It would spin up VMs, and you would then start installing those things and spinning them up. And of course, the level of maturation goes up and up and up. I think right now we're at a very simplistic level of what people are doing. They are standing up systems. They're standing up security type systems. They're standing up analysis systems. We have a digital forensics lab where people can go in and extract the data from hard drives and run that through like FTK or other forensic software tools. So we've got a handful of those types of things already built, and there are labs built around those. But I think that it's as much as we're really excited about how much we have, I think what we have is not even a speck of dust compared to what would really be beneficial to have. And so that's where I think there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration. Yeah.
What would you say that some of the biggest challenges are having students run a data center of this scale?
I think the biggest challenges for me, initially, I guess, and the challenge sets change. Our biggest challenge probably in the first couple of years was just trying to get a facility and get it up and running. And for the first year, it was finding facilities, finding ways to create anything that runs. The second year was trying to get servers and get resources to where we could run labs and enough of them. We're really enjoying life at the moment because we just received a whole new block of servers that we're installing. Now we have more servers than we have things to do with. So now it's more of how do we go find people who want to do meaningful things, and really trying to make sure that we match. Because you've got the administrators who are running the boxes, installing things and whatnot, but they're also learning. And then you've got people who want to run things on top of that, and they're also learning. And so there's an opportunity for train wrecks. And so I think there's a measure of patience that needs to be, had by everybody. But I think once you learn how to do things, you build a routine around that, especially once you then automate it. You kind of drop it into the vending machine, where you take whatever it took to, accomplish something, and you've got that down to a single button. The idea behind the vending machine is that standing up a cyber competition should be as easy as buying a bottle of soda. You should be able to just go to a machine, punch a button, and got it. And that's what we're trying to create. These initially competition environments, starting to turn to research environments as well. Environments that somebody could run experiments on a system or things like that. They can stand that up quickly. But I think right now one of our big challenges in trying to invite people in, but then also our internal people who are building the infrastructure, trying to make sure they understand the needs of the people who are trying to run things and that there's a match there. And then also I think we have to start a more formal way of training people who want to build things for the data center and teach them what the vending machine is and how they can take what they're doing, put it into that automation, so then they don't have to go through difficult gyrations anymore. They can literally just get to the point where they can hit a button and do that. And we're not very good at sharing that message yet or training people on it. So I think that's probably our current biggest challenge. And none others, then I will thank you very much for your time.